Welcome back to the Daily Dope Show. I'm your host, Brando, the Weed Commando. And, just checking back in. A little quick update on a few things. Well, just mainly one thing. Seems like the situation in New York looks like it might end up being another New Jersey, as far as, like, people not really agreeing on what kind of actual legalization plan they want to move forward with. And you know, we got this legislator in New York and in every state really that has two caucuses. One's a Democratic caucus and one's a Republican caucus, and none of them are united. There's, like, you know, especially the Republican caucuses. Now, people think that the Democrats are divided, and yeah, there is a big divide between the left and the Democrats on the issue of corruption in the government. Other than that, I think everybody on the left can agree on policy if they just sat down and talked about what they wanted. It's just a matter of some people who are stubborn and think we need to keep the corruption around don't want to unite with the others, and that's the problem on the left. But on the right, the problem is all about policy. The disagreements on the right are all about policy and how to get certain things done. Or, you know, when it comes to the marijuana legalization thing, none of them really can agree whether they actually even want to do it or not. They don't know whether they want to legalize marijuana or decriminalize it or legalize medical use or just let people use CBD or none of the above. There's like 5 different factions of Republicans, and all of them disagree on this issue and all the other issues, really. There's no unity in anywhere in the country on any issue. So, let me see. Let me turn one of these off. All right. So, hopefully that sounds better. I just turned off one of my inputs. And yeah, so what we got is, like I've been saying since, I don't know, 2012, is there's this greed seeping in to the marijuana movement. And it's not welcomed, all right? It's not welcomed by the activists. It's not welcomed by the people that are dedicated stoners or whatever that believe in a certain thing about smoking weed, which is that it's kind of an enlightening tool and is supposed to help you kind of see beyond, you know, that's the psychedelic hallucinogenic powers of weed, man. It, like, lets you see through the bullshit, all right? And the bullshit is the corporate marijuana takeover. I've been fucking screaming this at the top of my lungs for 2 years on this channel, and nobody seems to care. I know the talking point's kind of getting in here and there, but no one understands how stupid this is, to just sit back and be like, oh, cool, let's celebrate the legalization, everybody. You know, oh, we get to help out with our... go pay taxes to the people that just got done locking us up for weed. Now we want to give them our money. Are you fucking kidding me? I'm not wanting to give them my money. I don't care about giving the government money. What do they do with it anyway? Bomb people in countries you've never heard of? Because they're not... Because that's what the fuck they do with your money. They ain't doing anything for us with the money. Why should we support that system? So... the corporate takeover, I've made many videos about it. In every state that legalizes marijuana, there's this shady group of people with suits and ties and briefcases with old Wall Street money that come in and set up shop and try to take the shit over. They do it through regulation and taxes, and that's how it goes. They come in and they take it. So all the people that were growing weed the whole time it was illegal, you know, the activists that fought to make it legal for everybody so that nobody had to worry about getting caught with a couple of joints in your car on your way back from the fucking fish show. Yeah, we don't like the corporate takeover, because you know why? Because they're trying to push us out. They're trying to get rid of the people that fought really hard our whole lives, you know, living in the shadows, worried about that door flying off the hinges and guns coming into your house with a bunch of thugs shooting your dog and fucking taking everything they see that's worth value and putting it in a evidence locker. That's what we've been fighting against. We don't care if we have the government's blessing to go smoke a joint in your house, hidden away from the public where no one else can smell it or see it. That's not what we fought for all these decades. And, you know, they give us this excuse where they're going to be like, oh, we're going to roll this in slowly so nobody freaks out, and we can make sure that all the police that have basically nothing better to do than arrest weed people can figure out other things to do, and we can give them money too. Now, I'm sick of all that. This is bullshit. We don't need to go slow about this. Look at North Dakota just decided right now on a vote in their governmental house that they weren't going to decriminalize marijuana. You know, how barbaric is that? We're not even going to take criminal penalties off of possessing and smoking small amounts of marijuana over here in North Dakota. Well, I know where I'm not planning any fucking vacations in the near future. And, you know, it's just like everywhere you go, you went to California, Michigan, all 10 of the states have a pretty good corporate profile, as in there's a pretty heavy duty amount of big players that want a major piece of the pie chart on the marijuana industry in that particular state, whether you're talking about, you know, California or Colorado or Washington, where they've had it going on for so long, or Oregon, where it's like the most liberal, you know, place in the universe. And you'd think that, oh yeah, these guys are going to have the most laid back rules, and yeah, sure. And they do. And they haven't, you keep hearing about this old abundance of over weed, that they grew too much weed. That's a bullshit story. That's a story designed to, once again, minimize the home growers' efforts, and, you know, make it so, and the market really speaks for, in situations like that. Like, if you got too much weed, guess what? The stuff that sucks, nobody's going to buy that. It's just going to, who knows, just make oil or wax or some shit out of it. But if it sucks, people aren't going to buy the weed. It's pretty much that simple. But what they have done is they've decided, hey, maybe we should try to export this shit, and they're working on that. So that's pretty cool. I think I'm going to do a story on that. That's something worth doing a positive story about. And they're challenging the federal government by saying, hey, we're going to take our extra weed across the border and sell it to places that don't have enough weed. How does that grab you? And why should they not be allowed to? Because the corporate takeover don't want them to. The corporate takeover is a highly tightened control valve over all cannabis activity. And here we go again, this time New York, where the people that are the marijuana corporate takeover literally want to write the rules. And when they write the rules, you know what the number one thing that they always want to put in there, right? Is banning home grows. Banning home cultivation. Let me ask you something. When I say, hey, marijuana is legal, do you think in your mind that that means growing weed is legal or smoking weed is legal? Because I think it means marijuana is legal just basically means, hey, you can not worry about getting busted by the cops now. Cool. And that's how it should be. That's what we fought for. That's what we didn't fight to be able to let a few old rich dudes that are already fucking rich make millions and millions and billions of dollars off of weed. We didn't. That's not what we fought for. And while we were fighting on the ground with no resources or money, with a grassroots effort that literally started in the dirt, what did we expect out of it? We expected to remove the criminal penalties from marijuana. That's all we wanted. You know? And those billionaire and rich millionaire guys that are out there right now trying to talk about how many square foot of warehouses they want to buy in different states before they legalize marijuana, where were you when we were, like I said, the grassroots coming up from the dirt? We were getting no funding from you then. In fact, all the way up until right now, still, people are like, oh, don't invest on marijuana. That's a risky venture there, buddy. Any minute they can pull the rug out from under that, or whatever. They always got some reason why you shouldn't invest in weed. Rich people don't like weed, guys. I hate to break it to you, but filthy rich people that are greedy pigs that walk around in stinky cologne, driving, you know, Mercedes Benzes. I mean, I don't got anything against people driving Mercedes Benzes, guys, and I'm not a jealous hater on rich people either. I've never met too many people that have a shit ton of money that thought about weed in any kind of a positive way. But now all of a sudden here they are cozying up to us because they need us to be their customers at their weed stores. Quite frankly, that's about it. Well, they're at it again, man. Here it is. Yeah, man. That was my intro was a little bit long there. I know I fired off. It's kind of getting to be my average, about 10 minutes or so of just, I can't believe this is happening still type shit. But it is. Can anyone tell me why there would be a reason why somebody is not allowed to grow weed at their house if it's supposedly legal? Because I can't name one reason other than to protect the interest of corporations. When you're talking about tobacco, yes, you can grow tobacco in your backyard. You're talking about beer, yes, you can brew your own beer at home. Wine, same thing. Liquor, you have to get a license to run a still, and the license is based on whether or not you're going to make money off of it and how much volume you're going to produce. A lot of times you don't have to get a commercial still license. You can get an experimental license or other things, but you can do it. It is possible to do, and it's not that expensive. It's not that many hoops to jump through. You can do all those things at home, willy-nilly. There is limits, but guess what? The limits are not enforced by some drug enforcement, you know, law enforcement agents that would come into your house, shoot your dog, kick your door in, take all your possessions, and give you felony charges. It just doesn't work like that with the other things. Just like it doesn't work like that with possessing copious amounts of alcohol or guns or anything else that's dangerous and should be restricted for minors. In fact, you can drive around town with as many guns and bottles of liquors in the back of your box truck as you feel like. Nobody will give you a ticket for it. But somehow we impose limits, and those limits are also ways that the corporate marijuana takeover keeps everything countable and in single quantity purchase amounts that they can unitize, count, and base projections and spreadsheets and do their, you know, figure out tax revenue numbers and such. That's what the corporate takeover wants. To dictate everything we do so that they can make as many dollars as they can off you. That's pretty much what how it works. Can we stop this shit from happening, from being fully corrupt by corporations? No, of course not. But what we can do is that we can at least get what we fought for, where we don't have to worry about getting arrested for growing a few plants of weed or having a few too many grams of, you know, shatter or whatever. So here's the article from Marijuana Moments. Kyle Jaeger, awesome. I like everything Kyle's been doing. I like everything over at Marijuana Moment. There's a few times when, you know, I just don't know what else to do with some of these stories. So I'm just going to read this one straight through. I think I've gave enough of my opinions about this bullshit. And when I get through it, I might have another comment or two. There is one part here where I'm going to go over, and then we'll just read right through here. All right, so New York Governor Andrew Cuomo took marijuana reform supporters by pleasant surprise when he endorsed legalization last year after previously calling cannabis a gateway drug that should remain prohibited. But for advocates, there was at least one major disappointment in store when he got around to revealing the details of the plan. The proposal unveiled as part of his budget last month would ultimately include a ban on home cultivation of recreational marijuana. Home growing, seen as a common sense policy that ensures access to cannabis for individuals who can't afford retail prices, live too far from a dispensary, or just want to flex their green thumbs, has been a feature of almost all legal adult use marijuana systems operating in the U.S. with the exception of Washington state's. So what's behind the New York governor's opposition to letting adults cultivate their own crops? And one note, real quick, just want to put this in there. Washington State is moving to move into allowing home growing because duh. Well, anyway, let's get back to the article. It could be that Cuomo took a page from the commercial cannabis industry, literally. Roughly a month before the governor announced the details of the legalization proposal, a New York-based marijuana business association, led by executives of that state's major licensed medical cannabis providers, sent a policy to Comey's office, or Comey? No, I'm not Cuomo. Sorry if I said that earlier, but it's Cuomo. So they sent a policy statement to Cuomo's office in the interest of offering, quote, some thoughts on various issues associated with the transition from medical to adult use. Now, I'm going to break away and real quickly say, in Michigan, the corporate takeover lobby kind of, when nobody was looking because it was the middle of 2016 elections and all kinds of other things were going on, they basically put the bill through that the lobbyists wrote. All right. And it's the same thing here. And, you know, the people in charge of writing the bill, where the lobby came and talked to them, will sit there and tell you that nobody else came and talked to them. The only people that bothered coming was the lobbyists, and nobody, you know, obviously no dirt poor person that lives too far from a dispensary came to talk about home growing over at this one. But not really, because Cuomo didn't have nothing like that. They had like the New York Department of Health talk about whether or not they should legalize marijuana, and after a long discussion they finally decided, oh yeah, it'd probably be a better idea to legalize it than keep it illegal. And based on that, Cuomo, I guess this is the only thing he did, is he got a statement from these guys. Back to the article. One of those thoughts centered on the business's desire to prevent consumers from growing their own marijuana. Politico first reported the existence of the document created by New York Medical Cannabis Industry Association, or the NYMCIA, in December. That title, boy. That's a scary sounding acronym if I ever heard one. NYMCIA, or the NYMCIA. This month, Marijuana Moment obtained a full 29-page memo through a state Freedom of Information law request. Thanks for the work, guys. And I'm sorry you had to go through the trouble of doing a FOIA just to get this document. That should have been there should have been a level of transparency that this NYMCIA would have yielded to, you know, just to not look so nefarious. But it's kind of hard to hide from this shit. We'll get to it in a second. Back to the article. There are some broad recommendations that most legalization supporters would take no issue with, such as encouraging individuals from communities disproportionately impacted by prohibition to participate in the legal industry and leveraging partnerships to expand research into medical cannabis. But the chapter titled The Fallacy of the Home Grow makes very specific, and in the eyes of advocates, misleading arguments against allowing marijuana cultivation for personal use. The group recognized that people want home cultivation because of, quote, currently high price of medical marijuana, or because they see it as, quote, individual civil liberty. But according to NYMCIA, home cultivation creates a significant public safety and black market risk. And this is what is going to be a thing for a while. We're going to keep hearing this word black market. You know, I've long used it myself to describe the underground markets. And the problem with just calling all of the underground markets black markets, and when I say underground markets, I'm just saying the markets that are operating around any kind of regulation, laws, or taxes. And it could just be one of those items. It don't necessarily have to be all of them. Like, you could be operating completely within regulations but not have a license because you just don't have a license. Or it could be you have the license but you're not operating within the regulations. Guess what? You're considered black market. Or if you're neither of those, but you know all around totally illegal. And then you have these other things going on where there's this illegal Mexican drug cartel network that's been established and developed for the last 50 years because of the drug war. You know, that's responsible for bringing us marijuana for a while nobody was growing it before the 80s came around. You know, you probably had some outdoor growers in the 70s, but these markets, you know, we wanted to bring these markets into the light. But instead of letting us do that by bringing ourselves out of the darkness, they want to do this where they regulate and, you know, regulate you right out of it so that you can't participate. So let's go over this list they have. This is what they consider the 5 claims that support their argument. Claim number 1 is that home grow will make it impossible for the state to eliminate the black market. Well, let's see. The thing about it is they don't really want to eliminate the black market, guys. And since New York is nestled in an area where there's a lot of states where it's not legal yet, and it won't be for a while, probably New York will be first, there'll still be the black markets around there. But, you know, and if that wasn't, if New York was the last place to legalize weed, they wouldn't be talking about these black markets, because they're going to need those black markets so that they could keep their prices high. And we got to keep reminding them that marijuana doesn't really cost as much as everybody charges. But the reason that the prices are still what they are is because of these black markets that they keep talking about that exist. They use that as some kind of a reason to justify keeping their prices high. When the people that are running black market game could lower their price even more than it already is and not really feel it too much. So I'm just saying, man, this idea that banning home grows is going to do some kind of thing to eliminate the black market, that's not their real concern. The real concern to them is that too many people will have weed that they don't have to go buy. Too many other people will know somebody that grows and get it from them. It doesn't matter if we're talking about money or not. The only thing that does matter to them is that they're not going to get the $10 or more a gram that they want. And that's basically it. This is like the first way that they can set something in front of the shareholders and be like, hey, doesn't this look good? You know, and that's what they want to do. So, you know, claim number 2 is that home grow will make it impossible for law enforcement to distinguish between legal and illegal products, thus frustrating enforcement officers. Now that is kind of like weird, because first of all, if you said marijuana is legal, what are all these illegal products that you're talking about? All right, maybe you're going to make marijuana legal, but really strict guidelines. That's bullshit. You're not really legalizing marijuana. Maybe you're talking about, okay, it has to be packaged properly. Well, what if someone's just driving around town with their weed and it's not packaged properly anymore because they took it out of that package and put it in their package? So that one don't make a whole lot of sense right there. And for me, I really wish law enforcement didn't have to even worry about making distinctions between whether weed is legal or not. It should all be legal. There should be no law enforcement involved. So this is just total horse shit. And what you're really alluding to with this number 2 claim is that you still definitely want law enforcement to be involved. So you're not really for the reform of marijuana laws at all. You're just for making fucking money. I wish the person that wrote this one down was sitting in front of me right now, because there's no way he'd walk out of this room without his tail between his legs, basically crying like a little bitch, because this is fucking ridiculous. You got illegal marijuana products? What's that? What is that? Explain it. And why are the cops still involved? And why is there still laws? What is this cop going to do? Put someone in jail for having the wrong marijuana product? Are you talking about somebody's grow operation? They don't know if this grow operation is legal or not. That's why you should make them all legal. I could go off on this one for an hour. Anyway, claim number 3. Home grow will undermine the state's harm reduction goal of ensuring that cannabis sold in New York State is grown without nauseous pesticides or other contaminants. Well, let me just point you to Canada or Michigan or California or Colorado, where one after another lab or dispensary has been either, all right, first of all, you get the dispensaries that can only sell marijuana produced in licensed facilities are coming back with positive test results for banned chemicals and pesticides non-stop. All right, we're getting more recalls. There's almost more recalls in Michigan than there is people getting weed through. All right, this is just ridiculous to say that this number 3 is is anything but horse shit. Canada, same thing. Massive recalls. Labs busted for corruption because they took the money and just let shit sit on the shelf with chemicals and pesticides in it. People literally seeing bugs crawling out of their fucking weed in Canada. And that's the shit that was supposedly tested by a lab. So come on, man. This is you lying to an idiot, you know, completely ignorant of anything to do with marijuana nuances, Governor Cuomo, who just a minute ago, you know, was talking about the gateway theory and fucking how stupid reporters are for smoking too much weed. Yeah, of course he'll believe you when you tell him that, oh, we better let our guys test it or it might be growing with these pesticides and shit. You know, that shortcut shit that people that want to cheap out use. I guarantee you anybody that's in my shoes that's been growing organically for 30 years has never used chemicals and pesticides that contain toxic shit. So, you know, wow. Claim number 4, Home Grow will underestimate the state's public health interest and ensure that cannabis is sold in New York State is tested, packages, and labeled correctly. Okay, so basically the testing part, we already covered that. That was the number 3 claim. So now you are adding to that claim the packaging ain't going to be the right shit according to our regulations, and neither will the labels. Well, you know what? Guess what? We've been smoking weed for 6,000 years on this planet, and nobody's ever died. The people that go to the hospital because they ate too many edibles, we need to educate the public about that it's not deadly, so don't go to the hospital. Other than that, I don't really see a big problem with, you know, if you got a packaged product that is packaged and labeled, that should be all that matters. Hell, I got a Ziploc bag right here that says Wi-Fi on it, 7 grams. That's pretty much all I need to know. But, you know, if you want to get right down to, like, you know, being legitimately concerned about dose amounts and whether or not it was tested, because that would probably be on the label too, and other things, I agree that if we're going to have a regulated situation with cannabis, which I don't have a problem with, where you got to go to a store to buy it and it's got labels on it and shit. I mean, that's fine. You guys can exist in that world if you want. Just don't fuck with us. And then secondly, I think that's cool, but you shouldn't worry whether the package and the label is from your state or another state or whatever. That's all I'm saying. I mean, we're talking about New York. Don't you guys still sell fucking bath salts and fake marijuana? I don't even know why I called it that. We'll call it Spice or K12 or whatever the fuck that shit is. Do you guys still sell that? I hope not. Because I guess as long as it's labeled and packaged correctly, it's cool, right? I mean, this is just the stupidest thing ever. And again, it's to say that, well, you know, you get them home growers and they're just going to be like making their own shit up. Yeah, exactly. You don't want the competition. That's what you're saying there. That's all you're saying. That's it. Number 5, home grow will cost the state tax revenue, thus hindering the state's ability to fund priorities such as the drug abuse treatment and community investment. Okay, now here's the thing I got about that. You're right. And you're also right about the death of 1,000 cuts type competition. It's going to hurt to have people out there that you're going to have to compete against to grow better weed. It's going to hurt to have people out there, you know, selling weed to people at a reasonable price when you're not looking, or you don't have your police out there kicking people's doors in and taking away people's rights over a plant. So that's all these corporations end up doing, is instead of us being able to decriminalize and take all the criminal penalties away from marijuana, we got to keep them intact to protect these guys' interests and the shareholders, make the shareholders happy. Not only that, but the taxes. We got to make sure that the taxes are enough so that we can do all the wonderful things that we promised to do for you for letting us have our legal weed. Well, let me think. What did I ever promise for the government to legalize weed? Nothing. The government should have never made weed illegal in the first place. They should not only make weed legal, but they should give us reparations for all the fucking bullshit that they put us through for the last 40 years of the drug war, 48, 50 years. And then you got another, go all the way back to 1937, where they took out the hemp industry and basically arrested people for weed, locked them up and threw away the key. There's people that were sitting in jail for life sentences. There's still somebody in Missouri, I'm sure, that's got over 10 years for weed. Missouri had the thing where if you get caught with 33 grams, it's a 5-year felony. So I don't really give a flying fuck about these tax revenues. All right? You're lucky you're getting anything out of it. But the one thing I don't like about the taxes is that you guys keep dreaming up of new ways that you can hand this tax money over to people that don't have any business touching it. I don't mind helping fix some roads or maybe even some dilapidated schools. That would make, you know, it feel a little better. But what they're doing, as you see right here, they're giving it to drug treatment centers that don't need money. They're giving it to police agencies that don't need money. They're giving it to community investment. Community investment sounds good, but then you look at it and it might not be what you think it is. And guess what? Although I do like chipping in on fixing roads and infrastructure stuff, the problem here is will they really do it? And B, why ain't they already doing it? Why do we have to wait until we give them a nudge? Why is it the weed people's responsibility to fix all these things that the billionaires don't want to pay for anymore? Next thing you know, we're going to be giving teachers pension money because they don't want to pay that. Or anybody else they promised money in the past to. So I don't really like the idea that, you know, these guys are complaining for the government about the tax problem, because this is just them kind of like nudging, like, hey, you know, you should listen to us. We have your interests at heart. To the guys with guns and badges that kick your fucking door in, if you got plants, they'll take everything you own and put you in jail for a long time. So that's your guys in New York that you know, that do the medical marijuana program right now and are definitely thinking that they're going to be the turnkey guys to fire off the recreational weed when the day comes. And I think this, based on this right here, we should do some unplugging of that, but it's not going to happen. It's New York. They're all about business. And of course, all of the big names in the corporate takeover are part of these people. And if you look at marijuana laws in New York, they're bullshit. There's no smokable medical marijuana. I don't know if they're talking about changing a lot of it, but right now, the medical marijuana program in New York is the worst, is one of the top worst ones going. So let's go through the rest of the article. For the last point, it's entirely reasonable to assume that New York State would miss out on some sales tax revenue if residents decide to grow their own plants. But the other side of that dilemma is that they likely mean missed profits for cannabis business, including those affiliated with NYMCIA. The secret of NYMCIA. It's like that old rat show on. From our perspective, it's really hard to see any real reason other than an individual and corporate greed to be against home cultivation at this point. Eric Altieri, executive director of NORML, told Marijuana Moment in a phone interview. There's a lot of rational concerns when it comes to allowing a limited amount of plants for an individual to grow at home. I'm sorry. He said there's not a lot of rational concerns. Yes, think about it. It's just a plant. All right. These plants have never done anything to hurt anybody. All right. Melissa Moore, a New York deputy state director with the Drug Policy Alliance, also pushed back against NYMCIA's claim that home grow option would make eliminating the illicit market, quote, impossible. It's the fallacy of the home grow, the fallacy of the home grow, as she puts it. It would make more sense to attribute difficulties reducing illicit market sales to state tax rates on retail cannabis, she said in a phone interview. And that's the thing that you can definitely point to, and you have examples. You have examples of the right amount of taxes and the right amount of home grow is good for everybody, which you had in Colorado. Or you can say that way too much home grow and lower taxes kind of let things go a little haywire, like Oregon. Or you can be like, you know what? Really strict regulations and high taxes is what you get in California, and you see what the fuck's going on there. It's over a year almost, and just a mess out there. As far as, you know, this whole idea that you could go to the dispensary and get an eighth of weed and pay upwards of $100 for an eighth is just, that just blows my mind, man. I seen a receipt for $168 for an eighth. What the fuck? That's, I mean, come on, man. That's like over $50 a gram, bro. Yeah, that's why people go to the black market. That's the only reason. And it's convenience, or it's because they already know the person that's been growing. They've been buying it from that same person their whole life. Even that person will go to the store if it's the price is right. Going to the store is kind of a novelty item too, so you're going to get a fucking million people walking through the door and buying something just because. Now, if your prices are $40 or more a gram, they're not coming back, dude. It's that simple. Give them a good experience. All right, back to the article. Moreover, NYMCIA's position is not consistent with that of other marijuana industry groups, such as the National Cannabis Industry Association, the NCIA, who argues that allowing home growing can actually benefit businesses. Man, I wish these guys would stop putting CIA in their names. Anyway, quote, NCIA does not oppose limited home cultivation. Morgan Fox, media relations director at the group, said in an email, quote, in fact, it can act as an incubator for people to develop skills which can be used in the legal cannabis industry, which benefits businesses as well as individuals looking to enter the market. Much like home brewing has helped spur interest in the craft beer market, limited home cannabis cultivation can do the same in legal states. Don't say that too loud, man, because, you know, Budweiser ain't happy about their 15% market share that they're losing to those craft beers. Marijuana companies, Columbus Care. Oh yeah, okay. So who is NYMCIA? Who is NYMCIA? Well, this is who it is. Marijuana companies. Columbia Care, Etain, PharmaCann, The Botanist, and Acreage, New York, Viral Health, and MedMen were all listed as members of NYMCIA in the memo to Cuomo's office. So we're talking about, those are the names that you have heard before, I'm sure, because that's the corporate takeover's main, you know, body right there. Now, I'm not really sure about Columbia Care, PharmaCann. Never mind, I'm not going to... More research is needed. But to say, you know, if you haven't heard of MedMen, and you should know that Acreage, New York is the Acreage Holding New York branch. They're multi-state, so is MedMen. All of them are. But that's the corporate takeover, man. That's who this is. And that was them that made that bullet list. And that's what they think about home growing. For future references, all these companies are involved in that. So whatever they're about to say here is all bullshit. Or whatever they got to say to get out of it. A separate controversy previously enveloped Columbia Care, which owns dispensaries and grow facilities in multiple states, after its Massachusetts-based subsidiary Patriot Care was discovered to be advocating against letting certain people with past drug convictions work in the legal cannabis industry. Another what the fuck? You know, you just heard how New York wanted to involve the poor minorities who was disparaged in the drug war. We feel so bad about it. We want to give you guys your licenses first. Well, you know, that's just the rich scratching the back of the other rich. Because the minorities that get the licenses, are they really going to be the guy that went to prison for marijuana? No, they're not. It's going to be some rich dude that they trust and that they don't care what their past was. I mean, I don't think that's a very sincere talking point. I think that's an identity politics bullshit move to say that, oh, we're going to look out for the minorities and give them licenses first. I don't think they really care about that. And the real way to right the wrongs of prohibition is to end prohibition. And when you end prohibition, the police no longer have anything to do with weed. And if somebody, you know, on the block wants to sell a dime bag to his neighbor, he don't get his life taken away for it. That's what we want. They don't want that. They want this. They don't want somebody that was in prison for weed before to get a license or to even work at a dispensary. They don't like us. When are you guys going to realize that? They just want to make money off us. So a MedMen spokesperson said in a statement to Marijuana Moment that it, quote, respects the right of those who choose to cultivate cannabis for their personal use. But it did not respond to specific questions about the company's involvement in drafting the policy statement that urged New York officials to continue prohibiting such activity. Like this 5-point claim list. Guys, if you think MedMen is your friend, whatever, man. Okay. Anyway, Jeremy Unruh, Director of Public and Regulatory Affairs at PharmaCann, told Marijuana Moment that the document, quote, was our industry association's first go at formulating some broad policy positions prior to meeting with Governor's office, and that the company's, quote, position on home grow is far more nuanced than a simple approve or oppose. Yeah, it is far more. It's 5 points of bullets on a claims list longer than a yes or no. We read it. So that was another bullshit non-answer. Quote, those policy points you have are sound, but our positions have evolved and will continue to do so. We've had a chance to socialize these concepts with other stakeholders, Unruh said. He argued that New York has superior quality control standards in place for medical cannabis, and that while the company recognizes, quote, the nature and value of civil liberty of home cultivation, allowing it would pose public health risks. So there's his more nuance. I think you already have that as number 3 on your claim list that you already said wasn't nuanced. So you're full of shit. That's another non-answer. We'll refer you back to number 3 on the claims list from before. But ultimately, quote, our position is this. We support the governor's home grow proposal, he wrote in an email. While recommending that the lawmakers ban personal cultivation of recreational marijuana, Cuomo did include a home grow option for medical cannabis patients in his budget plan. And as me and many other people in the activist community have said over the years, go get a medical marijuana grow license. Oh, I'm going to be in a database, B. What's up with that, weed commando? Thought you want to be off the grid, bro. I don't give a fuck about being off the grid. I get a check from the government for being a disabled veteran, you know. I'm not that off the grid. They know where I'm at. But the thing about it is you're already in their eyesight if you grow weed. You know? Get a fucking med card. But anyway, you shouldn't have to. No one should have to jump through extra hoops and be in a database just to grow some plants. That's my position. Cannabis reform advocates aren't buying NYMCIA's claims. Quote, to advocate against home cultivation, given all we know about how it works in practice from the industry side, really just is kind of despicable and illustrates their greed, and they're willing to sacrifice individual freedoms for the slightest increase in their profits, Normal's Altieri said. Thank you. That was one of the best quotes I've read about this. The association's recommendation also runs counter to what Marijuana Moment was previously told by the Vice President of Corporate Communications for Vireo Health, Elbe Zakes. Asked about the memo following the initial political report that only vaguely described the document, Zakes wrote in an email that, quote, "Our CEO and COO assured me that we've never lobbied against home grow, and in fact support home grow as part of a larger legislation, as long as it is regulated and controlled in a responsible manner, the same way medical or recreational markets would be in order to protect consumers." It's home grow, man. So basically, there is no worry about protecting consumers. You let people grow their own weed, and that's it. If you're talking about consumers as in people that go and buy shit, like go and buy weed, they still go buy weed at the store, right? We're just talking about people growing weed. I mean, I think this is just a talk around right here, you know? So, quote, more from Altieri, "We need to make sure that we have a check on the potential greed of the industry that we can already see in these early stages based on this advocacy document," Altieri said. Quote, "We need to make sure that the market in New York not only begins to address all the harms caused by the war on cannabis, but also is oriented toward the consumer and not large industry interest." Despite Cuomo including the home grow ban in his proposal, it seems the advocates may get more time to voice their concerns about the policy. Some leading lawmakers, such as Senate President Andrea Stewart Cousins, Democrat, are increasingly doubtful that marijuana reform will make it into the final state budget, meaning the negotiations on separate legalization legislation could end up resulting in a law that allows consumers to grow their own cannabis, but not this year. I think you forgot that last part. Anyway, Marijuana Moment reached out to NYMCIA itself, Cuomo's office, Etain, and Columbia Care for comment, but representatives did not respond to multiple inquiries by the time of publication. And holy crap, it looks like I went way crazy overboard with talking while I was reading the article. Sorry, Kyle Jaeger. Sorry, audience. Went way long on this. Yeah, about a month ago, here was when he released the legalization details. Even when I was making a lot of videos all the time, I might not have made a video about this, but there is one thing to note here. The governor is proposing to ban home cultivation of marijuana by recreational consumers, though a plan would allow medical cannabis patients and their caregivers to grow their own medicine. Why isn't that already a thing? Now, you remember Cuomo, he didn't come around right away. It was only because he was challenged in a Democratic primary by Cynthia Nixon, the famous actress from the TV show Sex and the City. And she basically pushed him from being a prohibitionist right-winger when it comes to marijuana to being forced into being for legalizing marijuana. So that I thank her for that. And she's still nudging him a little. She said on January 15th, right after this, or right when the plans was announced, she said this: "Today, Cuomo announced his plan to legalize marijuana in New York. Here's what I'll be looking for. A plan to ensure the economic benefits go to communities harmed by the war on drugs, not rich white men looking to make money off a product that sent thousands of people of color to prison." Now, that's a good way to put that, because that still basically says, if you were harmed by the war on drugs, now I never got caught, so I didn't go to prison. I feel lucky. I feel some white privilege going on there too, because there's several times when I got caught with possessing weed and they just took the weed and didn't write me a ticket. Could have ruined my life on a couple of those occasions. I feel lucky, but I still feel like I was harmed by the war on drugs for a couple of reasons. One, I've never had a job worth, keeping for very long, because I've never wanted to take a piss test, because I value my my rights as a human being not to have my bodily fluids examined by a lab just to get a fucking slave job. And then two, I've basically been living in the shadows my whole life. My house has been my prison for a long time in many cases, because when you're growing clandestine crops, you pretty much have to guard them too 24/7. This is kind of a strange life I've had, man. I've smoked weed my whole life. I've grown weed my whole life. And I feel like I've been a victim of the drug war my whole life. At any time, they could do this thing where they just consider me a criminal. Take me away, take all my shit, shoot my dog. So that's it. Oh, well, you know, I'm going to roll out of here with this little clip of Cuomo talking about how he's going to legalize marijuana last night.
And New York has to establish a regulated adult use cannabis program. We had an expert group, State Police, Department of Health come together. They did a report. They said the benefits outweigh the risks. Now we just have to put it in place. And we have to do it in a way that creates an economic opportunity for poor communities and people who paid the price, and not for rich corporations who are going to come in to make a buck.
I wish you weren't lying your ass off right there, buddy.
It reduces the impact of criminalization on communities of colors. It will automatically seal certain cannabis-related criminal records. It implements quality control. Counties and large cities can opt out, so we're not telling them what to do, but they have to affirmatively opt out of the program. Nobody under 21 years old. It generates approximately $300 million in tax revenue and creates good union jobs that we need.
That's all, folks.